right?
So we have more than 6 who have joined us. Great. Yeah.
Cool.
Right. Recording has started. Okay. So, a very good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tea Note, an initiative by Department of Pharmaceutical Management, NIPER Sasnagar. So, today's Tea Note is an extra special one because we have with us Mr. K.K. Bhakchandani, Chief Business Officer, Loris Infosystem. He holds a degree in BSc, MBA, PhD in Clinical Trial Management, and has a 28 years of industrial experience spanning in pharma, healthcare, life sciences, and IT software and technology companies. He started his career in India working for the pharmaceutical industry leaders like Ranbaxy and Pfizer, and made a change in his career path with a move to the software and to the IT sector. Since 2001, he has been involved in the Asian business world working for global IT software companies that provide enabling technologies that further empowers the digital assembly and R&D information. Entrepreneurial and visionary in nature, he specializes in launching new businesses. In 2003, he created the Asian Business Unit and has grown it into global levels of the company. The industry has also recognized his efforts with many prestigious awards such as Glory of India, International Achiever, Bharat Udyog Ratan, and International Sales Entrepreneur of the Year. He has been a regular presenter at international scientific conferences and meetings, introducing science that will help increase efficiency and productivity in R&D and manufacturing. Also in 2020, he has featured in the top 10 leaders in pharma and life sciences industry, a list that was curated by CEO Insights magazine. And sir, I can still go on, but without making any further ado, we welcome you and we are very honored to have you with us to share your insights with the coming generations, as you said. So over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashi, for a wonderful introduction. And I'm really glad that you kept it to that only, because it's actually my honor to be here and to be present in front of you. The reason it is my honor and it is my privilege is that some time ago, which is roughly about 30 years ago, somebody would have done this for me. So I'm here, right? So unless I do this, I think I can use Hindi. मैं ready रहूंगा. So here I am trying to reduce my debt. Can I get rid of this? Probably not. But I realize that any of such activity is actually far more impactful, far more useful, and importantly, relevant for your life. Because you have just either going to complete or completed the education part of it. Now, the kind of culture we have in our country, education is the most important aspect. When people say education is the most important aspect, I will agree. But if somebody says education from books and school and college is the most, I may not agree to that. And the reason is that what you want to do will come from a combination of how you behave, what you have learned, how you apply. Right? So you can see three pieces. What you have learned is a third piece. How you apply it and who you are the other two important pieces. And unfortunately, there's no prescribed syllabus for that. Right? So I would say that I'm glad that you are moving ahead. And a third of what is required is getting completed officially. The other two thirds you have been building over a period of time. If this interaction helps you in the other two parts, I'll be very happy. The reason is very simple that where you are today, what you have learned from course is really fresh. So probably you are better than I am already. So I should not try to teach you that. The second part, as I said, is far more important because that is you, how you act, how you perceive things, how you perform, and how do you connect of what you've learned with what is required to be done will bring you to success. Having said this, I also wanted to understand that I'm going to be speaking about B2B selling and marketing. And so I missed out. How many people are here in the call today? Okay,
74
So like
attendees.
around 70.
around 70.
Around
So out of those 70, how many of you are sure you want to come to sales and marketing?
You can
So
raise
I
your
am.
hands.
You can raise the hands and then probably take it off because there is a counter on raise of hands.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the numbers are growing. Is it because I'm on the call? All right. So let me tell you that what is important is to take a call, but any call, any decision which is not well informed may land into trouble. And therefore, some of you are still hesitant or are absolutely sure you don't want to be in sales and marketing. And this is perfectly fine. I mean, you are not required to be in sales and marketing. And let me also tell you, and I think now I'm really glad my country is moving in that direction, is that, for example, if you had to run very, very fast, you would want to be a cheetah, right? If you want to run very, very fast, would you want to be a turtle? Probably not. But if you had to swim, you would want to be a turtle, right? But if you wanted to live long, you wanted to be a turtle. If you didn't want to live very long, you would want to be maybe a small animal which has a lifespan of, let's say, 6 months, like earthworm and so on. Just the point is that all of us have our own characteristics. Some are suitable for one type of job, some are suitable for other type of job. I didn't even know I was suitable for sales and marketing, and I think I'm more of a natural person, so I do not really know if I should have come here. But after having spent 28 years, I feel that I have found a place where I am comfortable doing what is required. There are times when I am working with my colleagues and they say, oh, yeah, that's solving my problem. But there are some times when people say, no, 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 you will not understand that. And I don't take that as an offense. But there are definitely a few things which you don't understand. There was a discussion, and if I may request people to put down their hands because I'm going to ask another questions. And this is such a common mistake which we all do. Now, if somebody asks all of you that there is a very good job in government of India which requires strength in history as a subject, are you willing to leave this job or this course, this school, go and join that job? Probably not, right? If, and I have asked this question several times, that let us say you have 5 exams and you have to prepare. Of course, clearly from those 5 exams, there will be 2 subjects you're strongest, 2 subjects you're okay, and 1 subject you're not so okay. How much time would you spend on each of them? And I have seen that people say, I will dedicate 40% time, 50% time to that fifth subject which I'm not strong at. Is my assumption right? Because if it is, then we are looking at an issue. And because I don't hear anyone, just wanted to make sure the call is still live and I'm still online. Can somebody confirm that? Ah, Ramesh can. I can see him moving. Fine. Good. Good. And if I put you to sleep, let me know. Because I don't want to put you on sleep, especially weekend afternoon. I'm sure you had a relaxed meal and then it's like, kitni achhi neend aayegi. So coming back to what I was saying is that we are in a country which plays cricket very often. So I have a question to ask you. I am guessing that everybody knows who's Virat Kohli and everybody knows who's Jasprit Bumrah, right? Do you want Jasprit Bumrah to leave bowling and start practicing batting because he's not very good at batting? Do you want Virat Kohli to leave batting and start practicing bowling because he's not that great at bowling yet? Probably not, right? But aren't you doing the same mistake? Your weakest subject you want to dedicate 40% of your time? Please don't do that. You're Virat Kohli. Practice your cover drive. Virat Kohli today can play cover drive in 6 different ways. You can develop a 7th one. Jasprit Bumrah can do 4 types of Yorker today. Practice the 5th one. Do not leave your strength. Am I making sense? Right? The reason you don't want to do that is because no matter how hard you try, you're still not going to be the best. Only focus on something which you are going to be the best. And the reason I'm putting all this story is because you're asking me, sales as a career, is it good or not? Simple. If you're a Virat Kohli, batting is your choice. If you're a Jasprit Bumrah, bowling is your choice. If you don't do any, you play hockey, football, whatever, it doesn't matter. What matters is where you can be the best, right? Now, people say, oh, but I want to play cricket because there's so much money. I agree there's a lot of money in cricket, but Virat Kohli is not as rich as Ambani. Talent of Virat Kohli is owned by RCB. They are more richer than Virat Kohli when it comes to IPL. So you do not have to think about, oh, where is more money? You have to think about what comes naturally to me, where I am the best, and importantly, where I can excel. There are some things which are easy to learn, but everything is difficult to unlearn. Am I making sense? Right? The reason it is difficult to unlearn is because we have practiced it for a long time. But guess what? If we have not succeeded doing those things so far, there's very high chance we would not be, even if we try one more time. Therefore, we have to adapt it. Now, all of us know that the most powerful animal or species which has ever lived on this earth were dinosaurs. Are they here today? They are not. And there's one reason why they are not here today. And that reason is called adaptation. They did not adapt to the changing condition on Earth. They did not change or evolve. As we have heard the theory of evolution, everything is because the species were changing. They kept on adapting themselves and moving forward. Dinosaur was one species which could not or did not do that. We don't have them today. And hence what I request all of you is that the only permanent thing in this world is change. Everything around you changes. What does not change? Calendar, watch, clock, your boss, his boss, her boss. You yourself look in the mirror. You are changing. God designed us to be continuously changing. But guess what? We don't want to change. If you don't want to change, always remember the story of dinosaur. Right? Now, I think I have been a lot philosophical here, but then now I should get into the real subject and speak to you about what you have. I have two assistances provided by Ashi and Umesh who will be watching the chat, and you can put your questions if you have, you can give your votes, your comments, and we will make sure that I can attend at least most of them, right? Now,
Sir,
please go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you, but I think the chat is not accessible. I am not able to access the chat. It's written that it's only available to the team members.
Ouch. Okay. Uh, Fine. So in that case, you stay unmuted, right? I will halt. You will coordinate, get questions from people. They can raise hands, and then you can specifically ask them to ask their questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Okay. Okay. I'll try to do that.
Sure.
Sure.
Good then. So with this, then I will get into the presentation, and for this time, I'll just hide my video, and you will then see the presentation which we are going to share. Let me know when you can see the presentation.
Yes, sir. We can see it.
All right.
It's not on the presentation mode, but the first slide is visible. It's written B2B sales and marketing.
Okay. Is it now on presentation mode?
Not yet, sir. Not for me, but for anyone else who can view it, you can unmute yourself and say that.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip
Yes,
this
sir, visible
again.
now. So it was visible.
It was visible.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's changed again.
Yes, it has changed again. I just disconnected my second monitor. I thought that may be causing a problem. And let me know if you're back on the presentation mode.
Yeah, now it is.
Okay. Yes, sir. Very much
Right.
visible.
Sometimes technology may not be working in sync with you. And Umesh, would you be helping me to let me know if I'm speaking ahead of my slide or visuals, because sometimes that can also happen.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So I have two topics here. One is the career drivers, and the second one is the process. Now, the first one is more conceptual, and the second one is more detailed oriented. And it is my belief that if I have to speak about the process and all, we cannot really cover it in a short presentation. So I'll just give some ideas on that. And I'll be actually more happy to take questions which are related to these processes. And I'll be more than happy to elaborate how to address those situations. And I have put together something which is on the career side in a way that it would sound more appealing to you. Let me know if it is fitting this requirement, otherwise I'll change it. Okay?
Okay.
So let's move on towards the career drivers. Before I go anywhere, I wanted to highlight this. All professions are great because they give you the basis for existence. Your financial, your physical, your intellectual, your spiritual, because depending on what you do achieve, it gives you that feeling that yes, I exist in this world. All of them have plus or minus. I so far have not yet found a profession which would not have plus or minus. And they all have challenges and opportunities, and they all have their ups and downs. And therefore, going forward, if you feel that I'm talking a lot good about sales and not about other professions, the reason is only that at this point we are going to discuss that only. And I have respect for all professions, but because I have been here, I thought of sharing my perspective on sales. So let's look at it deeply. Okay, what is selling? If if any one of you is interested in saying and defining for me what is selling, can somebody tell me that? Are you shy? Don't worry, I'm not expecting you to be right.
So maybe if I can say it is the
Go
art
ahead.
of pursuing people to buy what you want to sell.
Okay, okay. I like that. What else? Who else can come up with any other definition or explanation of this? Don't be shy.
Sir, delivering any product or service at the price the customer willing to pay.
Okay, good.
Hello, sir.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Selling is a short-term concept which built on fulfilling the sales volume. It mostly oriented to product increasing the sell volume.
Hmm. Okay, good. And who else wants to go?
Yes, sir. Selling is the art through which any organization wants to generate its revenue
Hmm.
through fulfillment of their customers' needs and requirements.
I like that as well. Anybody else? Oh, that's good to go. Okay, so I'll cover the answer in the process part. But I must tell you that all of you were right in one way or the other. It's just that I will extend it to another dimension when I get to the other section of this presentation. Can you tell me among them who is a salesperson? Okay, let me answer. I come again. Okay, so I'll help you answer that question. Let's look at the next slide. The father is telling his son, if you get good grades, I will get you a bike so that we can come to this park on bike. The daughter tells mom, Mom, I have completed my homework. Can I go and play? Are you so sweet? Can I go for dance this weekend? The mom is telling the daughter, how will you grow up until you have taken these vitamins? You need to get stronger so that you can compete with your classmates. The son is telling his parents, Dad, I need a new tablet for studies. This is too slow. It doesn't have the apps which I need. I can't even write on this. Can I go back to my question on who among all of them were sales? I just wanted to let all of you know that our very living is selling. We are all salespeople. And now probably you know what is selling. And therefore, I asked that particular question of who among the father, mother, son, daughter, and we saw all of them were. So just before I go anywhere, I thought of just sharing that we are all selling. Because we are speaking about career, there are several people who have some ideas, information, in some cases misinformation about selling. So I thought of creating a slide which was going to compare the myths versus the reality about sales. I've heard this a lot. Salespeople do some magic to sell or they use some tricks. Whereas the reality is they follow a logical process to meet at a common point. I also heard somebody was giving the definition of selling along these lines, where it meets the expectation from two sides, right? There's a myth that you need a lot of luck to be successful in sales. Reality, you need to reach out to right people at the right time with the right message, with the right process, and you'll be successful. And you can see that I have taken a pause here. Salespeople are not honest and they keep lying. There was a survey which was done and they found that this is a very common myth. Whereas the reality is only honest salespeople make it to the top. The rest stay in the organization from 6 to 12 months and then they move on, or in professional terms, then they give up. You need to be honest, you need to tell the truth, and I'll harp upon this in the process later. People say that I have seen many salespeople manufacturing facts, whereas the reality is I have seen other professions as well. Doctors, when he's prescribing you a diagnostic test, engineers, when they are giving you an estimate of how much material is required. I'll keep myself mum on politicians, and I'm particularly myself very, very, very disappointed with what people do in media, especially in our country. So isn't it that they are as bad as others or as good as others? So it's a myth. Salespeople takes your money. Yes. But they in turn give you your dreams. I'm sure when you grow up you want to buy a car, isn't it? But there's a guy who's helping you find a good choice. Is he bad? I don't think so. The problem is our cultural values have been such that the person who's taking money is not good, and we have to outgrow that. As I said in the beginning, unlearning is required. So this is how I would want you to perceive when you look at the salesperson. Now, what does it take to be a salesperson? I think this is very, very important because a lot of you would want to understand that what would it take for me to become a salesperson? Can I or can I not? The first one is resilience. It means keep on it, keep working on it. Persistence, consistency, and passion. Character. You need to be absolutely yourself, naturally. Do not try to be anybody else. And hence, if you want to be in sales, you need to preserve that. There's a lot of hard work. Well, I think hard work is in every field. The only hard work which I'm referring here is when I started my career in 92, I was working as a medical representative and I didn't have my own vehicle. So I had my medical representative bag in the morning in my hand and I used to work on feet. Today, I don't have to do that, but I jump on a flight with a notice of 4 hours. Today, I don't have to carry my bag, but I have to carry the responsibility of the company. Multitasking. The person who will be in sales would also be requiring multitasking, like many other professions, where he would be expected to give a call to someone whom he doesn't know. He would be expected to respond to a query of a product for which he is not an expert. He is expected to create a proposal of technology, of science, of a very high-tech solution for which he doesn't have a lot of understanding, but he will put all these pieces together so that when the proposal goes to the other side, it will make sense. Salespeople require a lot of imagination of how this can solve the problem at customer end. How this feature will be useful for what the customer wants to do. How I can understand what is their requirement and be relevant to them. How do I go back to my boss and say, this is a genuine interested customer, can we give him a 5% discount please? You need to imagine, today this product is not relevant, how do I make my customer see the future? So you have to creatively ask the right question, creatively give the right answer, and importantly, paint a dream for the customer so that they can see the reality and agree with him. Handling stress. This is a particular one. All salespeople have a lot of stress about doing their quota, doing their target. I heard somebody mention this in their definition of sales as well. All of them have to run after a target which they have to complete. Many times they are expected to think out of the box and say, okay, fine, you don't have money, you don't want to spend money. I have a product. You want to spend $10, my product is $20. What do I do so that we can find out a solution which is smaller than our $20 and give a value which is more than $10 and give something which will be absolutely suitable. Chasing timelines, right? I'm sure some of you who have experience of sales or some of you who know that you have to run and get this done within this month, within this quarter, within this year. You have to handle that. And of course, sales targets. Whether it's a target of a quarter, a year, a month, whatever that is, you have to keep chasing that. And therefore, if you can do all of that, you can definitely take sales. A very, very important hence question is, should you pick this career? And let me just put some emphasis that if you think you can misinform people, you should drop this idea of picking career in sales. Because in sales, you are expected to tell the truth. If you want to be a successful salesperson, this is your best bet. I learned in my childhood that you have always two choices in front of you. Either tell a lie, be good for a short period of time, and then once that lie gets caught, then you be bad for the rest of your life. Or your second choice is be truthful now, be bad for a short period of time, and when this information goes across by you or by somebody else, then you're good for the rest of the life. If you think you can talk a lot, then you should not join sales. Because what you need in sales is ability to listen. I could have written here ability to hear, but I didn't, because there's a huge difference between hearing and listening. I hope you got my idea that listening means paying attention, listening means interpreting, listening means extrapolating. And that's what is very, very important. If you are able to look at a situation and a problem and you are able to see beyond, interpret that, extrapolate of what can solve that problem, that's what you should do in sales. If you think you always have a right question, probably you need not to be in sales. You need to be a lawyer. If you want to be in sales, you should be the person who have an answer, a solution, a response, not a reply, a response to what has been asked or what situation you are in front of. If you love to take, probably you are absolutely not fit for sales. Because if you want to be in sales, you should have the ability to give. And last but not least, is very simple. You should be able to handle pressure. And therefore, if you think you have these qualities, you should join sales. I have taken a pause here because do you see these qualities in your parents? If the answer is yes, which I guess it is, you love them and you will do anything for them. Guess what? The laws of universe are the same. People who are willing to do something for others are the ones who get things done for themselves. Although there are chances when it doesn't get done, even after you have done, but there's absolutely chance you will get it done when you have not done it yourself. Does somebody wants to say something? I hear some clicking, so I thought somebody wants to say something. But guess what? Salespeople develop themselves personally. They become better human beings. How? You see a sales guy, he's always smiling because he has now learned the trick of dealing with pressure, timelines, targets, and whatnot, which we just now already discussed. He can talk to anyone. Have you ever seen on an airport, there is a guy who's always talking to people nearby? 90% of the chance he's in sales. He can speak to anybody. He has no inhibition. He has now learned to pick up a phone and speak to somebody who's not even seeing. They can discuss any topic. Reason? They have now learned that listening increases your ability to learn. And once you learn, you can discuss anything. Salespeople can travel anywhere. I'm sure half of you, if somebody tells you right now you have to go to Chennai, you'll say, "Arey rehne dena yaar." But if you tell a sales guy you have to travel to Chennai and there's a big deal there, 2 hours later you'll find him at the airport or at a railway station, whatever is the mode of transport. They have developed a technique to handle challenges of life. Whenever you are undergoing work which is putting you through situations, you learn how to handle those situations well. Isn't it? Imagine why sports people are, let's take a different example than sports. Why do you think a lot of army officers end up getting good jobs in private companies after they have retired from the army or air force? It's because they have learned to deal with situations. They have learned to drive their battalion. They have learned to deal with physical challenges. And And this is exactly what happens with salespeople as well. I love this particular one. Always you will see a salesperson will handle the answer no very, very well. And by default, you will always find salespeople have more friends. More friends means more rejuvenation. More friends means more relaxation. More friends means more help coming to you. More friends means good quality of life. However, there are challenges as well. There are challenges with respect to sales. This, I think we have spent enough time on already. They get just a lot about who they are, what they talk, is it true, is it not. As a result, the opportunity is that once that credibility is established, it's very easy for them to stand out wherever they are, isn't it? If you have 10 salespeople and one you can depend on, no matter what others are saying, you're going to buy a product from them. Many times, sales is the only index of judging whether they are good or not by their own company, by the company they serve. That's a challenge. So if you work for a company in sales department, the most relevant index is how much sales you bring. Guess what? Therefore, it is very easy to shine. It's so tangible. I was supposed to bring $100 million. I have brought $100 million. I'm successful. Period. No more discussion. Whereas, when you are in a technical team, you are supposed to design a product. You've designed the product. Is it a good product? Is it a bad product? Does it work? Does it not? Is it integrated? Is it not? Can people use? Can they not? It's not really tangible. So on one hand, you have a challenge that it's very tangible. The same thing is in your favor. It's done, move on. The amount of effort required in sales is high. As a result, you become a better human being. And I think my previous slide was talking about that. The office time is loosely defined. You often see a sales guy on the road, late in the evening, early in the morning. I remember when I was myself a salesperson, people would say, जून के महीने में खाली सड़क पे अपनी खिड़की से पत्थर फेंकोगे, वो जिसको लगेगा वो सेल्स का बंदा होगा, because he's the guy who's running in those adversities. And one challenge is that the office times are loosely defined, and therefore always you will find salespeople doing shopping in between their work, getting to go and watch a movie with their girlfriend or boyfriend within the daytime, and so on and so forth. So that's an opportunity. If you are a software engineer, till the time it's 6 p.m., you are still coding in your office, you cannot leave. It's not necessary that they succeed every time. And it's a big challenge. Out of 10 sales which you pursue, you may get 3, 7 you don't. It's a challenge. Therefore, the rest of the 7 becomes the learning pieces. And they provide the highest amount of learning for them to become a better human being. Traveling. You get to travel so much. You get to see new places. You're always in a new place, in a new locality, or sometimes even a new continent or a new country. Take advantage of that. And you are pushed in unknown waters often. Oh, go do that. Can you get this done? Can you travel to Chennai? Can you travel to this place? Can you speak to that person? And hence you learn to swim and survive in every situation. And therefore, as I said, every profession offers challenges, but along with that they bring opportunities. So is the case here as well. These are some of the names of salespeople you may know. Some you can identify. By the way, the CEO of IBM, world's richest person. I couldn't get more, so If I do more research, or even if you do more research, you can find more names. I can see some people have now stood up on their chair and said, let me look at this now. Earning progression of sales. So on one axis, I have kind of done a rough estimate of how they earn. On the other axis, I'm putting the progression when they are a trainee, when they start a job, when they finally get a decent job, they become a frontline manager to get things done, when they become middle management where they not only get things done but they enable getting things done, when they become senior manager, when they make sure that the overall objectives are met, when they make sure that the entire team is following the process, when they create the process, to the level when they are the business owner of their unit, where they know how much money they can spend, how much money must be earned, how much money is required by which time, and. And I have taken 3 examples. Technical roles, where people are software coders or sales engineers, not sales guys. Scientists, application scientists, versus people who are managing HR, finance, and all different kinds of operations in the company, versus people in sales and marketing or people who are developing business. You will notice that the technical sales role have a gradual increase in their remuneration. When we look at the operations guy, they start very small. But as soon as they start, when they have already learned how to manage the operations, how to find out things are going right or not, they can start very well. However, because with the passage of time, the innovation decreases, the growth is not as much as the technical people. Whereas when we look at people in the sales department, they start the lowest. Even when they have found a good job, they are still the lowest. But the moment they start to influence their team, the moment they start to come up with new ideas, and the moment they are actually making a big contribution to company's success, their revenue, their emoluments, their earnings increase significantly. I would not be surprised if people in sales department who are successful will be making about twice as much as some of their other colleagues with that much experience. The issue, you have from here till here, you are building your future. And I think that's an important point for all of us to see and learn that this is how it's going to be. And with this, I'll just stop this presentation momentarily and I'll open for questions because one section has been done now. Did I put people to sleep or you're still with me?
We are still with you, definitely, sir.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Anybody has a question? Yes, sab so gaye.
I'm very sure no one would have. Guys, if you have any questions, you can probably raise your hand because I'm not able to access the chat. Or if Mr. Umesh can see that.
No, I'm not able to see the chat or can access the chat. But yes, if somebody has question, then they can raise their hand, and then I
We
think
can,
we can unmute, and then they can ask a question.
right. Guys, you can go ahead.
Actually, I don't think any of them have any questions.
All right.
So let's move on with the presentation then.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about the process. It's as simple as you have to solve the problem. Once you're able to solve the problem for your prospect, you have success. Because we are not selling a product. So a lot of people have asked me, then what is it? It is a process. There's an art behind this. Everything has to revolve around the customer. Your strategy, your planning, your price, everything has to revolve around the customer. And therefore, you do not have to sell the product. What you're selling is happiness. What you're selling is convenience. What you're selling is efficiency. What you're selling is an idea, a concept, dreams, technology, safety. You are not selling a product. Guess what? When the mobile salesperson hands over the phone to you, have you ever seen your smile at that time? When the car salesman gives you your new car, when you buy a new home, and considering that you all are young, I am sure you are aspiring that one day you will buy all of these, the best in the class. But guess what? Whether you buy something which is worth X or 10X or 100X, the person handing over the keys of your dreams is going to be a salesperson. And therefore, if it is that important job, then it has to be done with that much of a commitment. So selling is a process of solving a problem of a customer which he or she do not completely know, in such a way that he or she understands how that problem can be solved by what you are offering at a price which is agreeable to both parties. And that's what is selling. Although it's a long sentence and it sounds simple, but as you would notice that there's a lot of work which goes behind doing that. A lot of work will go behind what will make my customer happy, what will make my customer easy, relax, what will make my customer faster, what will make my customer understand how to address. Life insurance is an idea, you don't sell it. Concept, membership, subscription of the content. Many times I'm sure you would have bought some of the courses online, and many times you would have bought some of the trainings online. Dreams, I want to have a big house, I want to have a long car, and so on. Technology, the phones which you have in your hand. Safety, all the safety devices which you buy, even if it is a safety security camera at home, even if it is something which is as simple as a helmet which you have when you're driving, everything. Most of the times, it is easy for us to understand when we look at it. But when we ourselves become a customer, we have a different perception. And hence, successful salespeople are the ones who can translate that into the problem and translate their offering into a solution, and they make both of them agree on something and conduct the business. And therefore, I would say this is an art and a process of selling. Now, I'll just spend a little bit of time on that there are different kinds of selling. One is a very simple direct selling, how we were taught in the school. You go to a shopkeeper or you go to a vegetable vendor, you pick the vegetable, you pay, the vegetable vendor has sold something to you and it's done. There is indirect selling, selling in which you are not looking at the end user, selling in which you are only influencing the process so that the end user will go and buy the product. For example, medical representative working for pharmaceutical companies, And this is something which I did for some time when I started my career. B2B, where people are trying to sell solutions from a company to a company. For example, our own company. We create systems for electronic lab notebook, for electronic manufacturing or automated manufacturing, and clinical trials. So these are those systems which we have created now. Those are not consumed by one individual. Those are the products which are used by hundreds of users inside an organization so that they can become better, faster, smarter, secure, compliant, and whatnot. Similarly, Infosys selling their solutions to banks, Cognizant is selling their solutions to a pharma company. These are all the examples of B2B selling, in which a whole organization creates something which is used by a large part of another organization. Now, there are some businesses which are B2C, where the organizations are enabling the process so that the consumer can use their technology and consume it directly. So the difference here is the here consumer directly is buying. Here the organization is buying. Here the consumer is getting influenced, and here consumer is buying directly from the seller. Now there's even more definitions to this, but in the interest of time, I thought I'll just clarify this. This other very, very important aspect, that when you move away from direct selling to indirect selling, it becomes a little bit more complicated, because the person who is buying is not the one you see. It becomes even more complicated when it becomes B2B, because the person who is going to decide is the one who's not going to use. Because the person who's going to decide is either the head of the department or head of the company, but he or she is not going to use it. The person who's going to use it is not the one who has money to buy it, or is not the one who may be even interested in buying it. In organizations, everybody have different roles. There is a procurement department. Now, the procurement department do not decide whether to buy this solution or not, but they are enabling the process of buying, in which they make sure that the product or the solution or the services which is being bought meets the criteria of what they have. They make sure that the real end users have understood what it can do for them, and are they able to handle it. There is also another department, in some cases, IT, because they are the one who will be deploying the solution. Do they understand what does it take? Do they think that the technology which is getting delivered is contemporary, is modern, is able to handle the hardware? There is operations people who want to see that is the system going to change so much that people will not know how to interact internally, and so on and so forth. Here, if you see, the complexity is very, very high, and therefore people like Umesh have to handle several interfaces within the same company to make them understand that their queries, their problems, and their requirements have been taken care of. As a result, generally B2B sales cycles are long, some cases 1 year, 1.5 years, and so on. When it comes to B2C or a business like Flipkart, there is a lot which is happening in between, enabling. There are a few million vendors which Flipkart will be working with. There will be a system in which they will be signing a contract with them, because they do not have a contract with the customer, except that on the agreed pricing, they will pay this money online or on delivery or whatever that process is. So you will notice that the dynamics of each of these kind of selling is different from each other. Stages of selling. Now, I'll spend a little bit time on this, not a whole lot, because I think you would have either read it somewhere in your system or somebody would have trained it. Otherwise, I can always spend more time on this at a later stage. First is the prospecting. You try to look at the market and see what you have created as a product. Who will find it useful? Who will see value in this? Or even sometimes from your website, somebody comes back to you and says, it looks like what you have, we are interested. So you spend time in that, try to understand who will need what. Then you contact them. You contact them and you have a pitch where you say that this is me and I came to know that you will be interested in this. Can I understand? How can I help you? And then you explore if what they think they need and what you have to offer are the same thing. Then you explore the way our solution works. Will it solve the problem? And then you explore, can they afford to pay the pricing of the solution which we have to offer? And then you also see, do we have to give our whole offering or a part? And then you qualify that will this be the right person to pursue our business forward? And then you present to them, or then you make a pitch of what you have to offer, what your solution can do, what your services will do, what problem can you solve, and why this is the best among all of them. And then you will hear them out. You will listen to what is their objection. For example, oh yeah, it can solve that problem, but it may also cause this problem. Oh yeah, it can solve that problem, but I cannot afford it. Or yeah, that can solve that problem, but your product is doing A and I want B. Can you change it? And. Once you have solved all the problems and you have understood that yes, the customer also has the same belief of solving the problem as we are proposing, then you make a proposal of your solution in which you have all the information about what it does, what problem it solves, what benefit it has, what you have discussed with them, what objections we have answered, and everything which was contained in that discussion. And then you do a negotiation that this is how it will get delivered. You would have to pay for shipping. This is how it will get delivered. It will cost you $100. This is how we are going to implement. It will take 4 days for us to come and install. This is how it is going to do. It will take 6 months of deployment and training within an organization, and so on and so forth, in which you agree with the terms and conditions and the pricing at this process. And then this selling takes place. Many times people feel that this is all it takes in selling. So, boys and girls, this is just a piece of that. This is not all of what is selling. However, selling doesn't stop here. Then you make sure that the promises which you have made are delivered to the customer so that the customer is satisfied and happy and feels that all this time which was spent to arrive here was worth it, and either he is happy or faster or smarter or securer and so on. Once it is done, then you will ask for a referral and say, like I have solved your problem, would you see someone who would like to get his or her problems addressed? And then you maintain the relationship by giving whatever is required to keep the customer happy, because boys and girls, there's nothing better than word of mouth in selling, because always a happy customer can get you more customers. However, a happy customer has a chance of getting you one more or two more customers. But an unhappy customer has a potential of deviating 10 customers who were willing to work with you. And hence, the focus on having customer center is very, very important, because if you see at each and every stage, we were thinking about the thought process of the customer, the requirements of the customer, how he wants to listen, how he wants to be contacted, how he wants to ask the question, and everything is around the customer. So if your focus is on people, if your focus is on customer, all the process will be very easy because you have to think like them and not like you. What are the criteria of deciding? How do customers decide who they go with, what product they buy? I have an example which I learned 30 years ago. Credibility of the person, efficacy of the product, medicine, safety of the medicine, compliance, that it does everything, the pride, and then they talked about price. Boys and girls, contributing factor is absolutely, can they work with the salesperson? Can they bank on the salesperson? Trust is a very small word. Bank. Is the salesperson giving me right information? Did the salesperson understood my query? Did the salesperson answer my objections? Is the salesperson honest? Can I trust? Then they think about, is the offering from them meeting my need or not meeting my need? Will I be protected if something goes wrong or not? By having the solution, can I avoid some issues? Therefore, I'm sure even when you buy the product, when the salesperson says, by the way, sir, my product comes with a 2 years warranty instead of 1 year warranty, aren't you more inclined towards that? Of course, then you feel like, oh yeah, it's a decent brand, it's an established company, even something which is as little as buying a phone. You said, oh yeah, Samsung I like, iPhone I like, or things like that. Then you associate yourself with the pride of having that product. And then you think about, can I afford it? There's also a myth when people are talking about sales that, oh, but the price plays a big role. Sorry, price has a role, but not big, small, and it is the last factor. Something which I learned from my days in this profession is that there is nothing called a price. It's always the value which the purchaser sees in the product, services, offerings, solutions. If the value which the purchaser sees is more than the price or the money which is being asked, sales happen. Till the time the purchaser has not seen the value, it doesn't matter what is the price or what is the tag on the product. I had an article which was published last year, and it says selling starts when the customer says no. If you find some time, you can probably go to this link and see, and you will realize that when the customer says no, it's actually inviting you to help him or her to sell that to you, or sell that to them. And the reason is pretty simple, as I explained. Everything has to be built around the customer, about the customer, with respect to the customer. It's not what you have to sell, it's about what they want to get. And many cases, they don't even know what they want to get, because the responsibility of that lies with you for them to realize that this is what they need, not that. And there, I'll just stop, and I'll be more than happy to take questions from your side about the process, about queries and questions. Feel free to ask.
Sir, I've kind of asked everyone to just message me personally if they are not able to like access the chat or something. So
Right.
we have a couple of questions. So there is
Please.
one by Pravesh. Pravesh, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Lovely.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for giving us an valuable insight about the sales area. So
My
as you
pleasure.
discussed, as you discussed the example of dinosaurs, where you told us that change is necessary. So
Right.
upcoming generation is about the artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Since so, how does artificial intelligence plays an important role in deciding about the transactions in the sales area? How it is affecting you in making decisions in the sales area, like how should we go with that particular deal, how should we deal that with particular customers, communicating with the various stakeholders of the company.
I'm glad you asked. So, as you must be realizing that artificial intelligence is really taking it up. A lot of companies are now deploying their solutions which are built around artificial intelligence. Now, what does artificial intelligence do? This is a way of deriving logic out of information which is already received. So, what sales organizations do, and I'm sure there's so much talk about what is going on at Google, is they collect all the information. Who is buying what is their age, what is their preference, what kind of requirement they have, what stage in life they are, what kind of professions they are into, and what they have done in the recent past. Based on this, then they run an algorithm which calculates that this person has a much higher probability of buying. For example, if I was working for Mercedes cars and selling a car, I would like to target your professor rather than you, considering that you are very young right now. You will have other priorities like establishing the career instead of spending money on a car. Whereas your professor is established, he has earned enough money and he would like to give comfort to his family, right? Now, all the artificial intelligence which we are seeing, and I sometimes feel very bad that is coming in play because we have decided to become dumb. We are not utilizing enough intelligence ourselves, and hence companies are seeing market in creating systems which can do that missing piece which some of us are not able to do. Does this answer the question or you want a little bit deeper than that?
Yeah, yes, it answers my question. Yeah, thank you, sir. And sir, I have one more question.
Yes,
Like
please.
area in the era of globalization,
Mhm.
organizations are providing their services to the international businesses.
Right.
What kind of challenges does the sales team faces in establishing a value of product in price sensitive market like the Middle Asia?
Okay. So let me tell you, there's nothing called price sensitive, by the way, because there's no price. I just now explained there's nothing called price. It's about the value which people give to the solution services which they are picking. Now, the perceived value in some of the markets is lower than what they are getting. And you need to handle that very carefully. Therefore, you would have seen that the same car which you buy in some parts of the world would not have a lot of features which they deliver in the other parts of the world because they're trying to match the value which you have perceived. Many customers do not even want to have those kind of facilities. So what they do is they trim down the version itself so that there's less investment on their side and they are yet able to justify it to the other markets that the version which you have offers more. Now, coming back to your question about in the international market, how would it impact salespeople? And I would want to go back to the same thing which I said. We are not selling products. We are selling ideas. We are selling value. We are selling solutions. The salespeople who have better relationship with their existing customers, salespeople who understand the requirement of their customers, salespeople who are able to narrate the solution to make it relevant for what the customer or market wants will still be successful. Only when they do not do this, they do not take the ownership of giving this information to the customer in a presentable way, other technologies will be utilized, reducing their value in the organization. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir.
Good. So this is how you would have to do A, human to human. Let me understand. Okay, I'll give another dimension to this discussion. Selling a product. Product is a rational item, but selling, buying is not a rational process. It's an emotional process. Let me give you one example. Last few days you had time, and I'm not talking about the lockdown period. You would go with your friends to watch a movie. Rational system, you will go to the theater or the complex, watch the movie, come back. But guess what happens? When you have come back, you've picked a shirt for yourself, you've picked a jeans for yourself, you've picked a goggles for yourself, or you registered for another course, something like this. Where is logic? The logic was for you to go watch the movie, come back, but that didn't happen. As you were passing by that shop, the mannequin was wearing a light yellow shirt, which was looking very elegant, and you thought, that color I do not have. You picked the shirt and you brought it home, isn't it? When you finished the movie and you were with your friend and you thought, अब घर जाके कौन खाना बनाएगा यार, देखो कुछ है. And then there was this guy who was selling biryani, buy one get one free. Okay, let's buy one biryani, one you have, one I will have, and we are done. If you are able to focus on what drives that process, if you are able to focus on how do I present myself to touch that emotion, whether it is as simple emotion as liking the color or as simple emotion as getting hungry and wanting to eat. If you are able to drive that, you will be successful. And hence I say that technology has its role, but mind it, salespeople, when they do the justice to their job, will still be better than artificial intelligence or technology even today. Going forward, the speed at which technology is increasing, we have to do that adaptation. Increase this, and importantly, this stronger, so that we are still ahead of computers. Let me tell you, boys and girls, you are far more intelligent than I was at your age. But I was much more stronger here than you are at this age. So pick up what you want to sharpen. You need to be stronger here and well informed here to be successful. If you are very, very well informed, but you're not stronger here, no matter which profession you pick, you will have challenges. Make yourself stronger. Information is available now much, much easier than it was at my age.
Thank you so much, Pravesh, for your question, and thank you, sir, for addressing that very well. Next question we have is by Sanket. Sanket, you can unmute yourself and ask.
And feel free to turn on your video as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for such insightful information. And my question is that nowadays, due to availability of technological tools and wealth of information, modern buyer is more involved in the process. So how does it
I missed. Can you please repeat what you said? Because of modern technology, what is happening?
modern technological tools and wealth of information is more available to the buyer, so that modern buyer is more involved in the process. So how does it affect nowadays business to business sales process and cycle?
A very relevant question. So because if you see, because of these different technologies, internet, availability of information online and all, the customer, the buyer, the prospects are doing all of that. So what we have to do, simple. We have our website, we have our profile. So you would see that companies are now investing a lot of time, effort, money to make their website as easy to access as possible, as informative as possible, and as crisp as possible, right? I remember when there was a time when you go to a website and there's text, 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 text. You go to website today, that's not the case because people do not want to read. They want to feel. They want to get an expression. When they look at the website, they say, aha, yes, that's what I wanted, to be able to do that. If that message goes across, people are influenced. Imagine the amount of money Google is making because all corporates are giving money to Google so that when you search about something, their name comes up, right? Because the sales process has to be enabled somewhere. Unless somebody who needs a product gets to know that you have something like that, how will the two meet? Because you only have access to 20 friends physically. On phone, you have access to 2,000 friends because you know people across the country. Using technology, you get access to 2 million people because it is on Google and so on and so forth. So whether it is you, so if you think your customer is going to internet, where will you go? Internet. 30 years ago, people who had to sell something used to travel to market, sell as a salesman, stand on the street. Why? Because people were coming to market to buy something else. They will go there and sell it. So if people are going to Google, you also go to Google. It's still the same formula. Make sense, or you differ with this?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I mean, if you do not agree, you don't have to agree. It's just that I'm older than you. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm smarter than you. Ashi, Goli.
Yeah, that's really humble of you, sir, to say that. And thank you, Sanket, for your question. The next question is by Shimon. Shimon, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Good evening, sir. So thank you so much for such an insightful presentation. So my question was, there is this Japanese tradition called as Eitsatsu Mawari, which means that while you're dealing in B2B model, okay, so you maintain a client relationship. How efficiently? That is by showing gratitude and courtesy to your clients. At the end of the year, they go and they gift their clients personally, and that's how they maintain their relationships. They express gratitude. So, sir, I wanted to ask, since you're into the B2B model, I wanted to ask you that is it relevant in terms of India? Do people actually do something like that here? And how will it strengthen our client relationships?
I love the question. Thank you for asking. Um, so I'm sorry, I didn't remember that Japanese term which was used. But what it meant was the vendors, the companies go back to their customer and they express their gratitude and thank you for giving us business. And let me tell you, having traveled a lot into Japan, culturally, they just don't do it, they mean it. And that's the first reason why it is successful for them, because what they do, they mean, and they mean what they do. And probably that's the reason you thought, is it relevant for India? Because not every time people do what they mean and vice versa. Let me tell you that because I'm a strong believer, sales is an emotional process. This is a very, very, very successful strategy. Guess what? I'm sure, Simone, you would have bought chocolates, come back, and given it to your friends on your birthday. There were a few who didn't say thanks. There were a few who did say thanks. After distributing all the chocolates, you were left with two. Who would you give it to?
My best friend.
Exactly. Who is your best friend? Who is closer to you? Who is expressing gratitude to you? If in the class you didn't had a real best friend, it is definitely going to go to the guy who said thank you to you. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Right? And therefore, all of us want to understand all the rationale, all the process and everything, but we forget that sales is an emotional process. How you are able to tell someone that you are more appropriate than other, you are more informed than other, you will give more value than other. These are all emotional values because I'm sure you keep buying products. When you go to a shop and you enter, there are three salespeople. You go to one of them. You know to whom? Who has a better smile. You haven't started interacting. You don't even know if that person is right or not. But where are you starting? An emotional decision. This person has a better smile. Or you enter in the shop and you're looking, somebody sold me this dress last time, and you go to that salesperson. Why? That salesperson now has credibility. That salesperson has proven he understands your taste. That salesperson has proven he has got the value for what you wanted to get. These things will not change ever. Now, coming back to the question of gratitude working in India, gratitude works everywhere in the world. More so in places where it is not generally practiced. Why? Because you immediately stand out. You said, I have 10 vendors. This is only one guy who came to thank me. Guess who will get the next order? That company, isn't it? When you do this, you have to understand that other person is also a human being. People buy from people. People don't buy from companies. People buy emotions. People don't buy products. Make sense?
Yes, sir. Very beautifully put into everyday examples. It was quite simple to understand for me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Because मुझे ज़्यादा पता भी नहीं है, मैं पढ़ा लिखा नहीं हूँ ज़्यादा.
Thank you, Shimon, for a wonderful question. So,
Lovely
Shakir
question.
had a question that were similar to Sanket, so I think that's probably been answered. Next question we have by Chintan. Chintan, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Good evening, sir.
Hi,
Thank
good
you so much
evening.
for the wonderful session. I'm eager to know regarding to B2B sales and marketing model. Actually, how did our Lotus Infosystem products, such as a Kemia, a wonderful e-lab notebook, is there? So how it flourished the relation with our customers, such as Aries Pharma, Aurobindo Microlabs, Catalent, and so many more.
Well, I really appreciate your research, first of all. I'm glad that you could bring up those questions. You see, uh, B2B business is a little bit more than just the emotion, but it is still emotion of a team, emotion of a department, feeling confidence of the whole company. And therefore, the only difference I would want to put in there is that you're trying to do that collectively. Now, how do you achieve that collectively? When you are in the organization, different people have different requirements. The person, and you asked me for the eLab notebook, so I'll give that example itself, that the chemist wants to make sure that when he is entering the data in the eLab notebook, it can be done automatically. If he could just copy from somewhere the text, put it there, edit it, submit it, we enable that. The chemist would want that if there was something which he had done last night with the whole experiment, if I could just take all of that, make a tiny little adjustment in the temperature, because this time in the experiment the temperature is different,
It'll save me a lot of time. We did that. The manager of this chemist wanted to make sure that when this is all getting done, he should not have to go and ask him, is this complete or not? We created a dashboard so he could see that. His boss, who was the head of the department, wanted to make sure that if I had to run the project, these three pieces of quality should have been yes, yes, yes. Can I go specifically and check all those three answers? Because it doesn't matter if the answer took 40 experiments to do, or 45, or 60, or just 5. He can go and check that. As a result, when we bring all of them together, we ask them, did we satisfy the requirement which you had? Were we able to do what you had envisioned from the product? If not, what we can do? Also, we thank them, sir, thank you. And giving us this feedback is really, really valuable. What we did, and this is something which we keep on doing, is that we ask them, did we do this? And he said, yes. Did we make it easy? Yes. Were you able to finish early? Yes. And then we tell them that this is what you did. So when we left the conversation with the customer, we left him with the belief that I said yes 1, 2, 3 times. It means they take care of me. Once you do for different people, for example, for IT, we went and said, was it easy to deploy? Good. Was it easy to handle security? Yes. Are you satisfied with the robustness of the system? Yes. Did the system ever crash? No, stable. Cool. When we leave that conversation, we say, did you do this? Yes, yes, yes. By the time our conversation is complete, we have collected a lot of yeses. And guess what? That feeling of confidence when you leave behind with the customer, next time you will have that. Did I answer the question?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind response.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. So I think that was probably the last question that I saw in my chat box. So if
Good.
any one of you still have any more questions, please feel free to raise your hands and just unmute yourself and ask. So we just take a couple of seconds there.
Sure, sure.
So sir, Yash is raising his hand. So Yash, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Hello.
Hi, yes.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for
Good
the
evening.
session. Sir, we are facing this pandemic, and sir, I was curious, sir, how the COVID-19 has affected the B2B selling channels, and are there any new channels that are being used now?
A very relevant question, and I'm glad you asked. So, B2B or not B2B, selling or not selling, everything has changed. This pandemic has kind of shaken us, forced us to think beyond what we used to do, asked us to look at different dimensions, and hence it has changed for us as well. And of course, our interaction online has increased for several reasons. A, we can't travel. B, it is quick. C, even our customers don't want people coming from outside. And also, we have all realized that some part of the discussion can still be done, especially if you can do it on a video like this. Now, imagine if all what I have been speaking for 1.5 hours was only sound and not my face, not my expressions, not my gestures. Would it make as much impact? It would not. And hence we adopted the technology wherein we can not only share ourselves, our gestures, our talks, our presentation, our audio, and we move towards Microsoft Teams and even other tools. Today, in terms of reaching our message, we have created shorter videos, shorter animations, because there are several things which on a phone you cannot explain. On a video call, it is still having limitations. You would want to send those videos to those people with the animation. This happens here. One example is that analytical chemistry people wanted to make sure that the data which they are chasing from one to the other place can be delivered automatically without disturbing the compliance, because pharma is highly regulated. We created videos to show that this is how it will happen, and they said makes sense now. The other technology which we have now utilized, especially in these pandemic time, is our ability to record what customers have to say when they call us, so that we can interpret what they're saying. And the reason is very simple. Most people who have queries do not have the ability to put them in the right words, and hence you have to interpret it. You have to ask your colleague, said, does this also mean what I think, or do you think there's another dimension to it? Make sense?
Yes, sir, I got it. Thank you for the insight, sir.
Good, good. And I wanted to say is that generally I do coaching only for senior people, and I have not done it for youngsters. But as I said, I wanted to kind of pay back to the generation and guide them. And a lot of this presentation which you see, I created late last night and a little bit just before the presentation, and you must have seen few slides I skipped, is because I decided not to talk about them, and they were my notes and I forgot to delete them. So I'm sorry for those imperfections in this presentation, and would like to especially thank Ashi for, first of all, arranging all of that, reaching out to me, reaching out to Umesh, discussing with him, advising me what you would want to get, and then beautifully conducting it. I would like to thank Umesh for being here, also letting me know that because he comes from the same background, what kind of questions or queries you may have, what it is which would have value for you, and therefore this presentation or this session is better than it would have been without their support. And I want to thank each one of you to listen to an old man for such a long time and still staying awake. Thank you so much. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just send a message and I'll be more than happy to respond. And Ashi has contact details of mine as well. Feel free to reach out to me. And with this, I would say that this is all I had to say. But if you think there is something, I'm happy to address.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. It really means a lot, and moreover, it's an honor for all of us that you actually fetch out a time. I think a very considerable time for all of the young minds over here. It was a great privilege and a great delight to interact and learn with you. And we hope that the association that we have created with Loris Info Systems over the time long, we continue to do that in a collaborative manner. And I'm very sure students will be really interested to reaching out to you then. And I'll definitely share the contact details and they can learn from you further. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much, everybody.
And thank you so much, Mr. Umesh, also. This couldn't have been possible without him. So I kind of really requested him personally that if you can come up with the session. He also suggested a lot of things how we can go forward with it. Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you,
Thank you so
Abhin.
much, sir.
Thank you so much, Master.
Hello, sir.
Thanks,
so much.
Thanks, everybody. You all have a good evening. Good night, Shubhratri, Shabakar.
All right.
Thank you,
you.
sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Have a great
You have a good weekend. Bye-bye.